On today's Mavericks trade rumors, we're going to talk about these two players in particular. DeAndre Hunter with the Atlanta Hawks, plus an old friend, Harrison Barnes, with the Sacramento Kings. So we'll dive into those two players and if they would be potential fits. But first, subscribe to the channel. We're less than 2 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. A week from Thursday, it will be here. You're not going to want to miss out. We'll have the latest news and rumors leading up to it. We'll have you covered on trade deadline day. Go ahead and subscribe, and let's jump into this episode. He's Jeffrey Cooperstein. I am Harrison Graham. Welcome into Mavericks Today. Coop, let's dive on in here. Happy Monday. DeAndre Hunter, we've talked about him before. Could a trade come together between the Mavericks and the Hawks here?
Yeah, he's an interesting name that's been mentioned. He's kind of a guy that the Hawks could trade in order to shake things up because they've kind of been talking about that. They're one of the teams that could make major moves at the trade deadline, whether it's DeJounte Murray, it could be a guy like DeAndre Hunter or Clint Capella. I wanted to explore the DeAndre Hunter side of things because I think he, of those three, would be the best fit for the Mavericks. And I think Sam Vecenie of The Athletic had some interesting things to say on Hunter.
Yeah, he said his skill set is polarizing for scouts league-wide. Some evaluators love Hunter's ability to take on tough defensive matchups against bigger and longer wings. At 6'8" with the 7'2" wingspan, he's always been a terrific on-ball one-on-one defender who can at least make life harder for the league's best scorers. And I think what's been nice to see, Coop, is his three-point shot throughout his career has kind of been up and down. This year, he's been much more consistent. 40% clip there. He's averaging 15 points per game almost, which I believe is a career high as well. Mentioned the defensive prowess. I mean, if you could get these numbers right here, just not even expecting an uptick, which you possibly could get an uptick from three playing next to Luka, I think Mavericks fans would love that. And he can play the 3 or the 4, and he can defend 1 through 4s as well. I like it, man. I think this is a guy that would fit pretty darn well.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit, and his contract is something you're going to have to take into account as well with just a couple of years and about $20 million a year on that. Just some of the pros for DeAndre Hunter, obviously, is on-ball defense. He's one of the better on-ball wing defenders in the league. You mentioned his catch-and-shoot three-pointers, and he's at 40.4% this year. I automatically add a couple of percentage points when anyone's playing next to Luka, so you could expect that to raise even. At the minimum, it'll stay stagnant, and then he's efficient in the mid-range as well. He's a good mid-range player. He's not a great driver to the hoop. He's not a great slasher, but when he gets into the mid-range, that 15 to 18 feet, he can make those as well.
Well, and we've talked about it recently. This is a team that likes to shoot a lot of jump shots.
Yes, they do.
If you can find someone that can knock them down a little more consistently, that would certainly be a plus. Now, with pros, there are typically cons. He does have a bit of an injury history. He doesn't create much. And off ball, he's not the best defender. So, it's kind of matchup to matchup based, but I still think in general he is a very good defender.
Agreed.
He's just a better on-ball defender.
Yeah, he hasn't played since December 20th. He had surgery on his knee to clean up. He's only played in 24 games this year. And he's kind of missed time in each of his 4 or 5 years so far in the league, so that's something to monitor. And the Mavericks also have a bunch of guys who are like that, who are injury-prone.
Should fit right in.
Yeah, not the least of which is Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, will miss his 4th consecutive game tonight after saying he's not going to miss any games. That's neither here nor there. Getting off topic. But here's a trade idea that I kind of cooked up. This is kind of what The Athletic said the trade value would be: a prospect, a late first-round pick / a couple of seconds. So I went ahead and put Jaden Hardy and a first-round pick in there, and then Seth Curry and Rashawn Holmes to salary match.
I mean, look, I would make that trade right there in a heartbeat. If you had to go with Dwight Powell instead of Seth Curry or something like that,
exactly.
I'd be fine with that as well. Listen, I mean, the injuries are a bit of a concern, but it also lowers the price tag for what he brings to the table. I think if you get DeAndre Hunter, you need to do it without trading Tim Hardaway Jr., although Tim's last few games, he hasn't been great. But I don't think Hunter's in that category of good enough player where I'm shipping out THJ to do it. So, I mean, I'd probably do this trade, man. I mean, I know you only have 1 first-round pick to unload, but
I think the risk is worth the reward with DeAndre Hunter, man. If he's healthy and he's playing his best ball, he could really help this.
I mean, I just think of like a closing lineup, and big if, because we were talking off camera. I mean, this is the concern with Kyrie, not just some of the antics, but that he misses time. But let's just say in a perfect world he's healthy, especially in the postseason. A backcourt of Luka and Kyrie, Tim and DeAndre Hunter on the wing with Lively at the 5. Like, if that's your closing
It's quite
lineup,
formidable.
I mean, you're gonna compete with teams, dude. Like, you're gonna have a chance, in crunch time against these top playoff contenders. So it just feels like you got to get healthy with your key players, and B, you got to add another player to the nucleus. And I think DeAndre Hunter could be someone that provides just that.
Yeah, I'm in on DeAndre Hunter, man. He's only 26 years old still. He's just coming into to the prime of his career. If he can get the injury situation figured out, hopefully that knee is he's on the mend. I hope he's able to play soon. And if he is, I think this is a guy that the Mavericks should explore trading for. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the package is. This is kind of what I had. But overall, I have a level of interest in DeAndre Hunter for sure.
What's your level of interest in Hunter, you guys watching right now? Scale 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being varied. I'd probably go like an 8. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I could probably find a few other names I'd have more interest in. Like, I'd still, in a hypothetical world, prefer like a Kyle Kuzma, more of that pure 4 who can create a little bit better, but he also costs more. So, scale from 1 to 10, I'd probably give it an 8 or so. We'll talk about Harrison Barnes here in just a few moments, but first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor. That is Prize Picks. I made a boatload of money on Championship Sunday in the NFL during the Chiefs-Ravens game and Niners and Lions game. You guys can as well. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. Little 3-player entry here as the Super Bowl is 13 days away. I like the more on Christian McCaffrey. I was surprised that the Ravens didn't run the ball with their running backs more against the Chiefs. I think the 49ers will try to get that going. How can you go against Travis Kelce right now? And he's been absolutely cooking in the playoffs. Give me the more on his receiving yards. And then George Kittle. I think he bounces back after a quiet NFC Championship game. 10 to win 50 here. With the Super Bowl here, there's tons of more or less numbers you can place your money on with Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get that deposit match up to $100. Link is in the comments and in the description. Get started today. All right, Coop. I feel like the last couple of years at the deadline, there's been some, could Harrison Barnes end up back in Dallas? And this year is no different. He's taken a bit of a step back this year. I think probably more than anything else due to just young players emerging in Sacramento.
I don't know if he's taken a step back rather than Keegan Murray's taken a big step
Keegan Murray's
forward.
been really good. And you could argue what you're saying is accurate because look at Barnes' splits. I mean, one of the more efficient years of his career, almost 42% from 3, still 48.5% from the field. Sacramento has a ton of depth. They're loaded. I think Barnes would actually play a bigger role in Dallas, if I'm being completely honest.
I think he would as well.
That's how good of a nucleus Sacramento has built up. Kudos to them. We saw them the other night.
Yeah, I think Barnes definitely would have a role to play here, not the least of which because he's kind of familiar with how Luka plays. Now they only played, 30 games or so together. Was Barnes traded the year before? He was traded the year before, so never mind. They didn't even play together. But
I can't even remember that, honestly.
Yeah, he was traded in the 18-19 season, so I don't know what I was talking about there. But anyways, Harrison he'd have a role to play here for sure. I think he still is a 3-level scorer. He can go to the rim. He can shoot the 3. We know about his mid-range ability, especially what he did in his time here as well. He can defend a little bit. He's 6'7", but he can defend bigger guys because he's really strong and has a low base. So I think he could help the Mavs there as well. And obviously his leadership ability, everyone knows what he can do off the court, and he could get this team together. And I think this team is missing a little bit of leadership ability. Obviously, you look to Luka and Kyrie for that, but it never hurts having another guy who can do that as well.
I like that he's had a ton of different roles in his career. Like, he was kind of just a role player in Golden State. Comes to Dallas, although for a brief time he was in this role, but he was the number one guy here for a while.
No doubt.
And kind of carried that. And then, he kind of takes a back seat, goes to Sacramento, kind of really brings his intangibles and helps that team become what they are now, I think, which is a true contender in the West. He's kind of taken a backseat. The point is like he's been a high-level starter.
Yes.
He's been a guy that comes off the bench. He's been a number 1, a number 2. He's been a number 4, a number 5. He's considered a great teammate. Like, I think he would add a lot to this basketball team that's been in a little bit of a funk as.
And officially, he did play with Luka. I had to look it up to make sure.
I thought they did.
Yeah, it was 49 games that season before he got traded mid-game. I remember that. So
I do remember the mid-game trade.
That was crazy. So there is pros, some of the cons for him. I think he's a little bit overpaid. He's in the first year of a 3-year, $54 million deal right now, so about $17 million a season.
Basically on the Tim contract, and Tim's like good games are not what like Barnes good
exactly.
games are.
So I think he's a little bit overpaid. It's not something that isn't manageable, but he probably makes a little bit too much for what he's doing right now. And I would say he is on the downslope of his career. I'm not saying he's like completely in the gutter, but there's definitely some regression there, as we showed you with the numbers. And again, that could be a product of what Sacramento's just trying to do with their rotation and whatnot.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't think like he's going to provide as much defense as like a DeAndre Hunter does. I think Hunter's length gives him a better chance to play some 4 if you need him to as well. So, yeah, I mean, out of these two, I would prefer DeAndre Hunter, but familiar face, a guy who could play in this rotation, certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. So here's the trade idea Coop cooked up. Barnes in a second to Dallas for Kleba and Seth Curry. I'd probably do this one too, man. Like,
yeah, look, I think if Sacramento just wants to get off that contract and they view him as someone who's just, stunning the growth of a Keegan Murray or whoever else they want to play, maybe they add a second-round pick to get rid of him, and the Mavs can get off some of their salary and Kleba and Seth as well. It's a deal I'd consider making. You obviously could interchange Seth and Dwight Powell. They make the same amount of money, but it'd be something I would heavily consider if I were the Mavericks.
Poor Seth Curry. He's going to get traded again, isn't he?
He might, man. I mean, he's not playing in this rotation right now, and I know he loves Dallas so much, but the Mavs keep trading him. This is the third time he's been in Maverick, and it might be the third time he gets moved.
Ooh, man, we'll see what happens. Sure, he's holding his breath over the next 10 days. Pick one. Who would you rather have? Type DH for DeAndre Hunter or HB for Harrison Barnes. Let us know who you would rather trade for. I think Coop and I would prefer Hunter, but Barnes is probably cheaper, so it all has to factor in there. All right, guys, appreciate everybody for tuning in to Dallas Mavericks Today. We will continue to cover the latest and greatest Mavericks trade rumors with just 10 days to go until the deadline, so be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys. Big game against the Orlando Magic tonight. Stay tuned.
Need it. Peace.